Well, get those life vest zipped and clips, strap down those rods, and stow away those tackle bags because we are going fishing. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Bass Wranglers Podcast. I'm your host, Keith Nicewanger, and I hope this episode finds you with 5 for 25 in your real-time tournament management system, cloud-based leaderboard. Congratulations to BASS on their successful tour stop at Lake Fork in eastern Texas. The Lake Fork event is always my favorite BASS Elite Series event of the year because this is the event each year where BASS gets it right. You see, the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department makes traditional tournament fishing virtually impossible on Fork because of its slot limits that are designed to protect the fishery. Essentially, all bass that are caught between 16 and 24 inches must be returned and cannot be weighed in. This makes a traditional weigh-in at a tournament impossible. Because of this rule, each year at Lake Fork, BASS adopts a Major League Fishing style format where boat officials, are they really called ambassadors? I think they are. It's okay. Where ambassadors or tournament officials weigh the fish, log the weight, and report the score. And the fish, of course, are returned immediately to the water. It's the best way to run a tournament. No fish get harmed, and we get to know the score. It's a sporting event. When I watch a sporting event, I want to know the score. Good job, BASS. I'm still not a fan of the 5-fish limit. Somebody in the top 10 on Sunday, it might have been the eventual winner, Tucker Smith. Somebody in the event, I don't remember exactly who it was, but they caught a 6-8 late in the day, and that allowed them to cull out a 5-14. That meant that this beautiful 6.5-pound bass only accounted for 10 ounces in this particular angler's weight. I know that this is what we do. I know that we fish 5-fish tournaments, but it's hard for me to get past the idea that a 6-8 only counts as 10 ounces. I can't always have it my way. I get it. Here's a meme for you. When your 6-8 only counts for 10 ounces. I just memed myself. I tend to do that a lot. The most important thing about the event, of course, is that the fish are returned to the lake immediately after they're being caught. They're not out of the water more than 60 seconds at the most. And this, of course, greatly reduces the stress that these fish would be subjected to in a normal weigh-in event. By the way, congratulations to Tucker Smith. He weighed in 127 pounds, 8 ounces over the course of the 4 days to win his first blue trophy. Big milestone event. In fact, in this entire event, the entire top 10 weighed in over 100 pounds. So there were 10 century belts claimed at this event. Lake Fork showed out. There's no doubt it's an amazing fishery. But not so fast, Texas. Don't go congratulating yourself yet. Lake Fork is a great fishery, but California's Clear Lake still kicked your bass in its most recent event. Consider this. Bass Elite Pro Kiyoya Fujita had 100 pounds, 10 ounces after the third day at Lake Fork. That weight, that 100 pounds, 10 ounces would have put him in third place at the recent Clear Lake event in which John Pearl had 102 pounds for 2 days and runner-up Nathan Phillip had 101 3/4 pounds. So, while Lake Fork is great, it ain't no Clear Lake. Come on, you got to give us Californians something, okay? You got to give us something. Thanks. Camus Boats, from the mind of Earl Bentz. Excellence, tradition, and service, all part of the Camus advantage. On the water perfection. This is your next boat. Build your next boat at camusboats.com. Ducket Fishing, pro-driven rods, reels, and baits, the choice of champions. Check out ducketfishing.com to see what everybody's talking about. Ducket Fishing, pro-driven. In the western United States, there are some absolute kings when it comes to tournament dominance, and hopefully this series will highlight their contributions to our great sport. As I see it, the West is made up of 7 different regions. Each region is made up with a tournament destination at its center. Therefore, each of these regions is kind of its own kingdom. Looking at a map, we can see that there are the following kingdoms. In the Northwest, we have the Columbia River. In Northern California, we have Lake Shasta. We have Clear Lake, also in Northern California. The Delta is located, I guess you would say, in the northern part of Central California. And then we have the desert lakes. We have Lake Mead in southern Nevada, Lake Mojave on the border between Nevada and Arizona, and Lake Havasu on the border between Arizona and California. Within each of these bass fishing regions, there are hammers, each always a threat to win, each with an intimate knowledge of their prospective fishery, and each with a reputation that if you're going to win an event, you got to outfish these hammers. These hammers are the kings of their region, hence the name of the series, the Western Kings. Lake Havasu, really little more than a wide spot on the Colorado River. The impoundment features virtually every kind of cover and structure that an angler would want to fish. Upriver, north of town, the Colorado River actually acts like a river, with eddies, wing dams, deep holes, sandbars on the main channel, and endless backwater areas that are tule lined, that are just off the main river channel. Plenty of shallow cover, lots of grass. The river empties into a large bowl in the Lake Havasu City region of the lake. There are plenty of shallow coves there with lots of grass. There's long points that literally could take you out almost to the middle of the lake. The main lake area offers scopers plenty of room to get out there and search for floaters, as we're calling them these days. So it's very diverse. It offers just about every kind of fishing that you'd want. And then further south, below Havasu City, the lake turns back into a river, and you've got a convergence of the Bill Williams River running into the Colorado River, and there's more endless tule lines for anglers to fish. So a very diverse fishery. Just about any kind of technique that you'd want to throw is always in play at Lake Havasu. In the past, the largemouth population fought a somewhat losing battle with the striper population, and the lake struggled to produce good tournament limits. I mean, back in the day, in the 90s, we used to refer to Lake Havasu as Lake Havaclu because it was just not an easy place to catch fish. And the ones that you did catch, they were always struggling to eat because the striper population was so strong. However, over the last 20 years or so, through a strong conservation effort and literally tons of habitat that have been added to the lake, the largemouth have made a dramatic comeback. Additionally, the smallmouth population has also come on strong, and it's not uncommon for tournament anglers to weigh in mixed bags of largemouth and smallmouth that still weigh right around 20 pounds. Our guest today is a Western King with not just a lot of success at Lake Havasu, but a dominance over the entire Colorado River system. He's a 2-time winner of the U.S. Open at Lake Mead in 2015 and 2021. He won his first big-time event at Lake Havasu, a Juan Bass event, in 2002. He qualified for the BASS Elite Series in 2017 and fished that tour until the big split when he became part of Major League Fishing's Bass Pro Tour. He won the Major League Fishing Toyota Series event at Lake Havasu in 2024, and he just won at Lake Havasu again this last week, winning the Juan Bass Arizona Open. Roy Hawk, thanks for being with us today. Welcome to the Bass 2 Anglers podcast.
Yeah, great, man. Great to be on your show. Good
You
to
know,
see you again.
first of all, you've been around this long enough that there's a lot of records and there's a lot of archives, but they're not that easy to find. Juan Bass needs to step up and get its archives in tune because doing
Yeah.
research on guys that have been around for a while, it's kind of hard to come up with information. But that's something I can talk to Billy about, I guess.
Yeah, we actually have a guy that's in the Las Vegas area that's going through all the records he can find. He's going to make a complete history of the Western fishing. So should be
Well,
pretty cool
maybe
when he gets it
maybe
done.
maybe we'll talk off air. I'd love to get a hold of that guy because
Yeah.
it's just we have such great history out here, and it
Yes.
just and Juan Bass has been such an important organization, in Western Bass before that, such an important organization to us. Well, so your first big win at Havasu was in 2002, and that's a lot of years back. Uh, what's the biggest difference between Havasu then and Havasu now? I have my own ideas, but I want to hear what you have to say.
I think the biggest difference is, well, it's a lot better fishery today than it was back then. So
Yes.
we can start there. And but the main difference I believe is the habitat. We have the biggest habitat restoration project in the United States going on here, where they started out with the big old giant plastic, bass bungalows and these big structures that are out there, and they did thousands of those. And now they only do brush piles, so just natural brush piles, and that's it now. And that adds nutrients to the lake. And some areas will have a lot of brush for 3 or 4 years, and then it disappears, and then it's over here. And so it's really cool how that works. It's not something that stays there for 50 years or anything. But that
Any idea when that started? Because I I want to say probably in the early 2000s.
Yeah, I think so. I should know that type of stuff, but I don't, unfortunately. I'll have
Well,
to look it
that's
up.
Listen, I always used to refer to Lake Havasu as like have a clue because I would go out there and struggle and struggle and struggle, and but yeah, the fishing has really come on. I was going to ask you also about the habitat program,
Mhm.
but the smallmouth bass have come on strong in that lake. In fact, in all the Colorado River lakes, I feel like the smallmouth has become a almost a dominant species now. You sure see a lot of mixed bags at tournaments.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially, I would say Mojave is probably the
Yeah.
the strongest smallmouth fishery, and then probably Mead, and then third would be here. It used to be better for smallmouth. I've seen definitely a decline in smallmouth here in the recent years. It had like a boom of them, and then it's
Yeah.
just kind of tapered off. We still got a good population of them, but there's definitely less in the lake than there used to be.
Speaking of both of those species, largemouth and smallmouth, I mean, do they just kind of show up in the same spots, or can you actually, go looking for smallmouth as opposed to go looking for, largemouth or
hmm Yeah, you can actually distinguish, where they're going to be a lot of times. Obviously the smallmouth will be on the rocky points and things like that, where largemouth want to be back in the grass. But we catch them mixed a lot of times, especially when they're around bait. You get bait in a cove, you catch a largemouth, smallmouth, either
yeah.
one or both. So yeah, there's ways to target them. Obviously, I would say like fishing down lake and fishing rocky areas, that type of stuff. Humps and reefs and stuff like that. You're definitely more successful for smallmouth.
Uh, so I was going to get to that river in just a few minutes.
Mhm.
But since you brought it up, I think we might as well talk about that. Uh, does the river north and south still play, or is the lake? I hear so much about the big bowl now.
Yeah,
Um, do the rivers still play? And I say rivers because up north it's river, and then down south you run into the Bill
yeah.
Williams. Do they still play?
Absolutely, they play. Yeah, there was a lot of weight that came out of the Colorado River this time, and the Bill Williams is still really good, and it's really good for numbers. But in the
Mhm.
last couple years, I've seen increasing weights coming from down there. That place always has lots of bait. It's got really good grass in the summer. Doesn't have a lot of artificial habitat that are in it, but it's got so much natural
Yeah.
habitat down there. And it's got off-color water. It's highly nutrient rich. I think we're going to see winning bags come from there in the near future for sure.
Now, I would think also with the smallmouth, north the river north of
Uh-huh.
town, probably in the river itself, you probably find
Yeah,
some pretty good populations.
yeah, there is. Yeah, definitely. Above the I-40 bridge can be really good, and around the I-40 bridge, and then any rocky point along, Rocky Point or Bar, in the river anywhere can be really good as well.
How far north of that I-40 bridge do you go? Because I've gone up,
I don't,
I've
I
gone
don't
a
go up.
ways. What's that?
I don't go very far.
No,
Yeah,
no,
I got friends
I've
that.
made that run up there before, and it didn't feel like there was any advantage to doing that.
They're way upstream. There's some pretty good areas. There's small areas that's it's hard to do like a multi-day tournament and run up there and get consistent big bags, but it is possible. Guys have done it. Guys have got single big bags up there.
Hmm.
Yeah, but it's rare. It's rare
Yeah,
for sure.
we were
And
talking
risky.
to. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I said and risky.
Yeah, yes,
It's
that
dangerous.
that too,
Yeah.
that too. We're talking with Western King Roy Hawk. So when I think about Havasu, and when you approach Havasu, what is the key to unlocking Havasu? Is it current flow? Are the fish current oriented? Is it wind or is it wind? Is it? I'm sure bait is a factor, but what
Mhm.
how do you break that lake down?
It basically it depends on the time of year in a lot of regards. But if you could just pick like one key thing, it would be that habitat. Because that habitat's throughout the lake and it's so consistent. It consistently holds fish year round. Like any time of year, if you get around some habitat, there's going to be some fish there. And so that's one thing that you could pick out that was, throughout the whole season that would work. It is a fairly clear lake, and wind definitely does help. We don't have a ton of current going through the lake necessarily, other than up by the river, and there is current obviously flowing through. Down by the dam, there's a little bit where it funnels down, it gets a little tighter. Um, but like generating current, like the TVA lake or something like
Right.
that, not really a factor. Um, but yeah, wind is definitely key. In the summer and starting in May usually and going all the way to November. If you're looking for largemouth, being around the grass is a real big player here. In the winter, it dies off almost completely here, so it's basically non-existent or very little. But grass is a really big deal. You mix habitat, brush piles, and grass all together, and you got something.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think that's pretty good advice. It's pretty good advice that keying in on that habitat. We're talking to you, two-time U.S. Open winner Roy Hawk. Big win this last week at Lake Havasu for you. How many big wins has it been on Havasu? Have you had?
Um, three like what we'd call major tournaments.
Yeah,
Two one bass and one FLW or MLF
right.
event last year, that
Yeah.
Toyota series. And then other than that, I've won some like team championships,
Hmm.
for a boat, that type of stuff. I think two of those here. So
Okay. So it's been because I mean I know Roy Hawk's name is synonymous with Havasu, not just Havasu because you do well in other desert lakes too. Not to take it away, but I know that kind of the focus of this discussion is around Lake Havasu. 54.62 pounds for the week. Talk about how you approached the tournament this last week.
it's really close to the same time of year as I did really well. I won the MLF event last year. So I had a pretty good idea of what I was thinking, would go down. Last year I caught him just cranking and mainly in the upper end of the lake, a little bit down south, but mainly in the upper end of the lake. And so I had that kind of set in my mind that it's be something similar. The practice went really well. We caught quite a few fish. Moved around the lake and tried a variety of different patterns, and kind of just feeling around just to see, if other patterns could, you could possibly win doing other things. And the only thing I wouldn't do in practice was throw the baits that I knew or really felt like I would throw them in the tournament. I didn't throw them at all.
So
So
you fished your JV baits in practice, and if you could get bites on
yeah,
those, then you knew you were dialed in with the
yeah.
varsity coming in for the event, right?
Yeah, exactly, so to speak. But I was really just looking for new patterns because in May you could win it so many different ways. I
Yeah.
mean, you could win it sight fishing, you could win it flipping, you could win it cranking, you could win it scoping offshore, jerk bait, all kinds of stuff is in play in May.
Well, I mean, so am I to understand that you did not catch your fish scoping in this event?
Well, I kind of did. I call it it's kind of a hybrid where you're using it more to find structure
Yeah.
than necessarily, plinking off fish with a minnow,
Right.
that type of thing. So you're using it more like sight imagery, but it's live.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, lining
Uh,
up casts and things like that.
Listen, this podcast, there is no shame in using technology to your greatest advantage. This podcast is an absolutely pro forward facing technology. So don't there's no shame. In fact, I think the shame is losing because you're not willing to embrace the
Yeah,
technology. I mean,
yeah, oh yeah,
that's where the shame is.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's good stuff.
All right, so let's talk about the baits. If you will get into
Yeah,
some of the baits and general techniques and locations without being too specific.
yeah. I caught probably 75% of them on a Spro Little John, and probably 75%. I caught a few on a Spro Fat Papa, um, one or two on a OSP crankbait, and then the rest were on a jackhammer, 3/4 ounce jackhammer
So this is a
with a
very
young.
fairly shallow bite then,
Yeah, yeah, 5 to 20. So kind
5 to 20.
of, yeah, it's pretty good range.
Oh boy.
And that chatterbait had a Yamamoto D shad trailer on it. I really like that as a trailer on a chatterbait. And I caught one fish that I weighed on a robo worm zipper worm, old school.
Wow. Old
Yeah,
old school zipper worm. Wow.
yeah.
I think I might have a few packs of those somewhere.
That was never just that was just Texas rigged
With a paddle tail or a curl tail?
girl tail,
Oh,
the full
I love
size,
it.
like a 5 inch. Yeah,
Oh my.
yep.
That's
I had to
that's
break it
awesome.
out. But yeah, mainly like I said, the upper end of the lake, and I targeted everything from grass to those habitats to brush piles to standing timber. And I caught one really key fish on an unmarked rock pile that I knew about.
Hmm. So upper bowl then, not
Yeah.
river?
No, I did catch a few fish down below the bowl, but I don't think I weighed any in the tournament. Oh, I did. I did. I caught one or two in Thompson Bay as well.
Okay.
It's all grass in there.
Hmm. So in the top five in this event, the weights were really close. I mean, I think
Yeah,
you won by under a pound, I think.
pound and a half, but
Just
yeah,
over a pound. Okay, yeah, but
yeah.
they were really tight. Did you feel like there was any key decision throughout the 3 days of tournament fishing that made a difference?
I think that each day I ended up with just good average fish.
Yeah,
I rarely caught one over 4 pounds. You know what I mean? But mine
yeah,
were all the upper threes, and being able to as the pressure increased, I could leave those pressured areas and go to areas that I knew about that were like just little one fish spots, you know, and I would get a line up on it perfect, take 4 or 5 casts, and boom, I got him. You know what I mean? It was always a better fish on those type of spots. So those little things kind of added extra weight for me
yeah.
and kept me in just solid average fish without having to catch a big one.
Very good, very good. We are talking to Roy Hawk today. He is a two-time U.S. Open winner. You started your career in the West, and then you qualified for the BASS Elite Series through the Western Opens.
No, the Central Opens.
Oh, through the Central Opens.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
because we didn't have we had Western Opens
Yeah.
a long time ago.
Yep.
So you made the trek out there. You qualified in just one season doing that?
I did. Yeah, I got really fortunate. Yeah. I fished a season of them quite a few years ago, but this was like my first real attempt, you know.
Yeah.
I
So and that was 2017, right?
think so. Yeah, sounds right.
Okay. And so then a year on the Elite Series, 2018, everything going smoothly. And then the bass fishing world gets turned upside down in 2019.
Yes, it did.
Tell us what that was like and how you weighed your decisions and what caused you to do what you did and so on.
Overall, like in the moment of it, it was real exciting. You know what I mean? We're gonna
Yeah.
go out on, I got the invitation to do it, and I was pretty excited about the whole venture. And I thought about it, quite a bit. It is a hard decision to make. But I pretty much was like, wherever KVD's going, that's where I'm going. You know what I mean? Because that's where everything's going to go down.
Yeah.
He's like the centerpiece of bass fishing. So, and all my other buddies, they were all going too. So, I felt fortunate that I even got asked. Only being a year on the Elite
Yeah.
Series, and I had a couple high spots. A couple high finishes and stuff, and decent finish at the Classic. But I mean, a lot of those guys don't even know me. You know what I mean? So
Right.
uh, I was real thankful to get the invite to go, and but yeah, it was an exciting time for sure.
2019 is such an important year for the sport of bass fishing. I mean, I there's all kinds of, I mean, we got politics in the world, and now we got politics in bass fishing.
Yeah, we sure
Um,
did.
yeah, one more thing we can't talk about at the dinner table, right? Um, but uh, but that year, we saw so many people split, and I'm sure there was pressure from those that didn't want to go, and um, I, was it an uncomfortable time, or is it all exciting as you said?
There was some uncomfortable aspects to it. Like I don't harbor any ill will for
Right.
anybody. I was happy at Bass. I was
Yeah.
stoked. You know what I mean? I was having a great time. I didn't even know what these guys were all complaining about. I have no idea. All I saw was golden rays of sunshine over there. I was having a blast. So, I don't have any negative feelings on either side, but I did see quite a bit of that, of guys that had been over there a long time and they just didn't like how things were going.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it was an interesting time too.
And of course, you got to fish the every fish counts format.
Yeah.
Um, what are your thoughts on that? You like it or not like it, or what do you feel about it?
Yeah, it's definitely not my thing. Now I'll tell you, it's the most intense thing you'll ever do.
Yeah.
And being able to have that live score tracker and all that, like that very first one we did down at Toho, it was insane.
Yeah.
We were just going, whoa, I gotta go catch like 20 fish in like 10 minutes, It's like it was
Yeah.
nuts. It was
Yeah.
super fun. We were, especially in the beginning, it was so new to us and stuff. We were just having a blast with it. And but overall, like for me personally, I think I'd do better at a five fish deal for sure.
I think that's what's in a lot of people's DNA. And I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard not to do what you're used to doing.
Hmm.
Yeah, some people have obviously picked up on it and thrive in that environment, and certainly can understand about the five fish limit. Uh, the U.S. Open has been moved to Lake Mojave.
Yeah.
Um, how, after all those years of fishing Lake Mead at the U.S. Open, and then now the last 2 years it's been at Mojave. You like it?
It's time to move it back.
Time to move it back.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Wait a
time to
minute, I'm
move it
just
back.
starting to learn
It,
some spots on Mojave.
I know it. Mojave is a great fishery and stuff, but it's so singular, in patterns and things like that. You
If you're
get a
not
little bit of
scoping, you're not. If you're not scoping, you're not
yeah,
getting them.
pretty much.
Yeah,
There's this last year there was a little bit more of like a topwater reaction bite that was happening that guys got onto more so than the year before, but still it's not even close to the diversity of Lake Mead. I mean, especially for something like the U.S. Open. I mean, you need that diversity. If you look back through all the results of the U.S. Open wins, they've been won in all parts of the lake. They've been won on all different range of baits, from the football heads and 45 feet to flipping, and everything in between: spinner baits, buzz baits, Ricos, split shotting, drop shotting, Texas rig, 6-inch worms, cranking.
Rick Clunn throwing a big old fat floating worm up in the almost in the Grand
Yeah,
Canyon because
yeah,
he saw bass eating the dragonflies up there. That's
yeah,
crazy stuff.
yeah. Like all those things, we're never going to see that again if we have it on. If it's
Yeah,
always on Mojave, it's going to be just basically the same every year, unfortunately. But it is a fun tournament. I still
yeah,
love it. I
yeah.
have the longest. So of the current fishermen, I have the longest standing run of fishing in the U.S. Open at 26 years.
26 straight years.
Yeah, this will
Wow.
be the this will be the first year I'm not there. 26 years.
Oh, you're not going this year.
No, no, I'm going to the Ultimate Angler Championship at Gunnersville.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a really unique tournament. No forward facing, 500,000 to the winner,
who's
and
putting that event on? I'm
the, the
not
state of
familiar.
Alabama.
State of Alabama.
Yeah, it's a qualifying deal. You qualify through the whole year, fishing all different. Like I qualified through one bass actually to go get in it. So pretty
Hmm.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is
we're gonna
cool.
miss quite a few people from the U.S. Open this year because of that. But
Wow. I did not know that. That was not on my radar. Uh, now, are you fishing? Are you not fishing all the WAN bass events this year, or are you?
all but the U.S. Open.
All but the U.S. Open. So
Yeah, correct.
you've been up there in the rain up at Shasta
Yeah.
this year, and
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Um, there was some talk about you fishing the BAM 60 tour also. Did that happen, or is
Yeah.
that?
Yep. I'll fish some of the band pro-ams. I think I'm slated for 3 or 4 of them, and then yeah, I'm doing the BAM Super 60
All
as
right.
well. I'll end
So
up
very,
fishing about 40 tournaments this year.
that is a lot of tournaments. That
Yeah.
is a lot of tournaments.
I've been going back east and fishing the Toyota series back there because they're no longer available in the West.
Right.
So I have one more of those back east, and then some other championships back east, and a bunch of stuff around here.
Is that a plan for the future?
Mhm.
Does Roy Hawk want to get back fishing in the East? Qualify for the invitational circuit, or I mean, you probably already are qualified for the invitationals if you want them, right?
Yeah, you can just pay to get in. Usually there's some slots available, towards the end of signups and stuff like that. You could get back in, re-qualify for the Bass Pro Tour if I wanted, or that type of thing.
Is that a
I think
goal?
it, no, I don't think so. I mean, I would maybe look at doing the Bass Opens
Okay.
and maybe get back to Bass.
Hmm.
But it didn't work out good on the schedule. I got tired of missing all the tournaments around here. You know, I'd be my my title sponsors, Anderson Toyota, and a
Yeah.
big event would come to Havasu, and there's like, "Where's Roy? How's he doing? Oh, he's in Florida." Like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then I'd be missing my key tournaments at home, and it got rough.
Well, and that's the thing that I think that we're beginning to see more and more is you can stay in the West and fish a pretty strong schedule. I've
Yeah.
seen several people that have come back to the West,
Hmm.
Ish Monroe, for example, and people like that that have come back to the West, and that's pretty exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. I
Yeah.
enjoy it out here, and obviously the travel is a lot less, and my expenditure is a lot less. I was spending about 80 grand a year on the Bass Pro Tour. So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? You got to make a lot of money to keep up with that.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Well, Roy, I appreciate you being with us tonight, talking about Havasu and your success there. Uh, what
My pleasure.
what do you got coming up in the next couple of weeks?
Actually, I'm going to Lake Mead this coming weekend. We got a ABA team circuit up there. They've
Hmm.
done a really good job. They've got it to where like it's like 10 grand for first up there. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
they're drawing a lot of
And
boats for those.
yeah, he's doing a fabulous job up there. And so we got that. And then the next weekend we got Memorial. And then the next weekend I'll be at the BAM Pro-Am at the Delta.
Very good. Very
Yeah,
good. Hey, thanks for spending some time with us tonight.
absolutely. My pleasure.
All
You
right.
have a great evening.
You take care.
All right. God bless you, brother.
Same to you. Roy Hawk is a bona fide Western king. While his connection to bass fishing royalty rests in his success at Lake Havasu, truth be told, Hawk has dominated the entire desert region of the West for a long time with success at Lake Mojave and, of course, his 2 U.S. Open wins at Lake Mead. His legacy as a Western great is solidified by the notion that if you're going to win at Lake Havasu, or really any of the desert lakes, you're going to have to beat Roy Hawk because you know he'll be at that event and you know he'll be a factor in the final result. I'm Keith Neiswanger. This is the Bass Two Anglers podcast. Please remember to like and subscribe. If you'd like to reach us, please send us a direct message on Instagram at Bass Tour Anglers Podcast. Take care. Be safe. We'll talk to you next time.